Senator Feeney.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is my first time rising in this debate to speak on an amendment, but I just want to express my thanks and gratitude to all who have been involved in putting together this base bill and really seeing the fingerprints of so many members of the Senate on the base bill, and certainly to the Chair of Economic Development, my good friend from Andover, to the Chair of Ways and Means, as well as the Senate President for all their work in bringing us this economic development bill as we wind down our session here in the Senate, but as we realize that we have a lot more work yet to do. This amendment, Mr. President, has been one that's generated probably more buzz than I thought it would. Maybe it's due to the name of the title, maybe it's the substance of the title, but I just want to preface before I ask for everybody's vote on this. You know, this summer, Mr. President, and through you to the members, has truly been one for the history books. We've seen tall ships recently come and depart. We have celebrated our 250th anniversary, not only in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but throughout the United States. We have, as always, had a 4th of July spectacular on the Esplanade, an event that I was very proud to be a part of for many, many years as well. And then how can we forget the World Cup? This was a different beast for us throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I've lived in the Commonwealth my whole life. I grew up in Boston. I'm proud to represent the district I do now, down 95 corridor and in Foxborough. And to be honest with you, Mr. President, I have never experienced something like this in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in my life. I've never seen such energy, joy, and pride that filled our streets, not only just here in Boston, but certainly down in my district and in the Foxborough area, but really throughout Massachusetts, in our gateway cities where there were watch parties and everything happening attached to the World Cup. I've never seen anything like that we saw this summer. And it sounds cheesy, and I know there's probably some people out there that are watching this or that read about this and they say, oh man, Senator Feeney, what are you doing? You can't just run this back and replay it. What are you doing? Don't you have a lot more important work to do? And we do have a lot of important work to do, and I'm proud to be fighting for so many amendments that are going to be protecting seniors and fighting for economic development in our districts and increasing our infrastructure here in Massachusetts. But I do that with the caveat also, Mr. President, that we can not only have some fun, but that we can kind of fix what ails us sometimes through sport, through music, through culture. And again, I know maybe some people just don't agree with me and they saw it as an international soccer event. But the way that I saw it, people from all over the globe came here to our home, to the place that we represent in the Massachusetts Senate, not simply to watch a soccer match, but to celebrate with one another. And we've heard this for many, many years about what the World Cup represents to the rest of the world, but we haven't seen it the way that we've seen it like we did this summer here in Massachusetts. People came together, they sang together, they danced together, they drank at our bars and ate at our restaurants and went to our cultural institutions and historic places across Massachusetts. How could we forget when World Cup kicked off here in Massachusetts and the fans of the Scotland national team, the Tottenham, and they laugh at me when I say it with my accent, but the Tottenham came to Massachusetts, what they brought to our Commonwealth. And I don't say this in jest, it was palpable, you could see it. Who could forget, forgive my props, Mr. President, who could forget the cones? The traffic cones that were taken unceremoniously from all the potholes here in Massachusetts and placed upon the heads of all of our historic statues. And I think when we saw this, it represented something more than just, as the Tottenham calls, the coning of statues. It meant something more than that. As they were doing that, it showed all of us how we can lighten up a little bit. How in a time of divisiveness and when cynicism seems to rule the day, when we wake up in the morning, you read the newspaper, you want to do nothing but bang your head against the wall reading about stuff that's happening that you can't control and other things that just seem to permeate our political discourse. We saw for a few weeks that we can do something different. We can lighten up. We can extend the drinking hours at our bars to allow people to be out and enjoy the company of their friends and family. We saw what it meant to have zones across the Commonwealth where people could gather together without these kind of puritanical blue laws and people looking over their shoulder saying you can't do this, you can't do that. We lightened up. And in doing so, we saw an incredible benefit. So we started thinking, we can't recreate the World Cup. We're not FIFA. We don't run these national teams across the world. We've never had a tournament like that under our purview that we've coordinated in Massachusetts. But what if we could just take what we've learned, use that playbook, take the incredible work that went into making Massachusetts such a great host for the World Cup, and then take that, use that playbook and make a tradition of our own. To understand what just happened over the last month, and not to kind of hang on to it and say, oh man, I wish we were still there, but to say, you know what, maybe can we be thoughtful about this? In Massachusetts, where we can do big events, historically we have hosted some major events, can we look at what's happening in the soccer world and double down on it? Where we see that there's a rise of interest in soccer. We're joined by the Boston Legacy Football Club, an incredible group of women who have taken Massachusetts by storm. We'll be playing at White Stadium in my ancestral homeland in Boston, but currently play at Gillette Stadium, my beloved town now in the district that I represent, and have brought so much energy to the process. We see youth soccer groups getting involved. Last week, I went to a mini pitch opening at the Hockomock YMCA in Foxborough, where the New England Revolution sent people to work with YMCA summer camp kids who wanted to play soccer because of what they were seeing on TV with the World Cup. So as we started to think this through, and I started to think about my friends back in Scotland and their mantra from the Tottenham, no Scotland, no party, I said, well, what if we simply looked at economic development in a different way? And we used this bill as the vehicle to file an amendment called No Soccer, No Party. It's, again, kind of an ode to our friends in the Tottenham. What will it take? And the first thing we thought we needed to do was to establish a working group to plan, coordinate, and recommend actions necessary to host international soccer matches within the Commonwealth. I'm personally tied to, if we called it like the Massachusetts Cup or something like that. But something that shows our connection now to this great game and to the international clubs and teams that could be playing here in Massachusetts. So we've put together this amendment that simply establishes this working group to be convened by the Massachusetts Office of International Trade and Investment, which did yeoman's work, by the way, in planning World Cup. I saw it firsthand, the amount of work and coordination that they did. And to kind of work with this working group to really develop a plan, to take the playbook we just used, but then to see if we can adapt that to host a tournament in Massachusetts going forward. Maybe it's once a year, maybe it's biennially, maybe it's once every 3 or 4 years, working with the schedules that many of these club teams and their players have to deal with across the world and in Europe and other international events that they're a part of. But let's find a spot. Let's find a spot and carve a piece out for Massachusetts. So that working group would be directed to consider prospective dates and venues and potential participating nations, including, by the way, the U.S. men's national team, who I was thrilled to watch on so many occasions, and I know that they'll be back in international play even a lot better than they were this year. But to look at what nations should participate. Now, of course, again, because I feel them in my heart, we made so many good friends with our friends in Scotland, in the Tottenham. We would love to have them back. But then to really look at and to charge the working group with looking at who has a significant diaspora here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. You couldn't watch the World Cup this year without having your heart stolen by Cape Verde. How many people were watching every single minute of Cape Verde's games and watching them as they really outdid themselves on the pitch? Hearing from our sister in service and our friend, Senator Miranda from Boston, who was so proud, beaming with pride about how her national team was faring in the World Cup. And you think about all those Cape Verdeans here in Massachusetts that were attending watch parties, and they were getting involved and they were wearing their jerseys and were so into it. Could you imagine if we could do that and have Cape Verde here playing an international match, friendly match here in Massachusetts. You think about the Irish population that we have here in Massachusetts. You think about the Portuguese population that we have here in Massachusetts. And I could go on and on and on. The Brazilian population, right? There are so many people that would be engaged in this event, and I think we should try and do everything we can to make it happen. So for those asking about the specifics of the amendment, just creates a working group. It puts a mission together on what they should consider. It brings in some of the best and brightest in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that, like I just said, Mr. President, just went through this and did incredible, incredible work. And I am extremely grateful for the work that they put into it. But when you think about why it's appropriate to do this in an economic development bill, excuse me, let me get there. Boston bars and breweries, and I know some of my colleagues saw it when we would leave the State House and you would try and get through, the streets of Boston, and it'd be down to one lane because these places were bursting at the seams. Boston bars and breweries saw a 28% jump in transaction volume during the tournament's group stage. 28% bump. That is the largest increase of any U.S. host market Square tracked, according to data from the payment platform Square. So they saw it, the data shows it, people were here, they were going to our restaurants and bars. Boston short-term rentals generated about $56.8 million in June revenue, a 27% jump than just a year earlier. And the MBTA sold, and by the way, thank you to the MBTA. I'm not saying I didn't have a ton of faith, but again, this is like, we were doing something new here, and the MBTA stepped up. The MBTA stepped up, they got the job done. I just heard from my local chief who was on TV last night who said, quote, the MBTA crushed it. And there are many times we get up and we talk a lot about the issues and the challenges that they face, rightfully so, on behalf of our constituents. But for this international event, to the chief of the police department in Foxborough, like he said it, they crushed it. They sold more than 108,940 round-trip tickets, nearly 10 times the previous single event record during the 2023 Army-Navy game. But I think, Mr. President, although those are important statistics and something that I think is apropos and relevant here as we discuss an economic development bill, I do want to just go back before I end my remarks to what I thought was the most important piece. Wasn't just economic development, wasn't just heads in beds, wasn't just people drinking at our bars and eating at our restaurants, visiting our museums and going to our historic places, riding the MBTA. It's about more than that. There was a cultural exchange that we just saw over the last month that none of us could have planned or scripted any better. It happened organically. It happened during a time where I think, as I said earlier, is a time steeped in divisiveness and cynicism. But as I looked out my front window in Foxborough, where I usually see traffic built up and people angry and trying to run to the stadium for a football game or a concert and all that, I saw something different. And I saw people that I don't normally see, from countries that aren't always top of mind. And as they were walking down the street with pride and with their flags high and with their jerseys on, they were hugging each other. They were celebrating with each other. And oftentimes when I talked to them, they said, hey, we want to thank you in Massachusetts for what you're doing. I said, thank us? What are you talking about? Thank you. Thank you for reminding us who we are, what's in our DNA. And they said, we have never seen such a gracious place, and everybody's been so great, and we can't thank you enough for this hospitality. And then as I kind of thought about it, you say, my God, have we lost our way? Can we do that anymore? I am inordinately thrilled with the leadership of the gentleman from the Cape, my good friend, who has introduced a fun agenda in this economic development bill. And I know some people, again, like probably most of the stuff that I do, people roll their eyes and they're like, what are you doing? But the bottom line is that we do have something special here in Massachusetts. We do have something special in every region of the Commonwealth, not just in Boston, certainly in Boston, but in every region of the Commonwealth. This is a special, special place. And we lose sight of that sometimes. And I think what it took was tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people coming from other countries to remind us of that, to remind us of who we are as a people, to remind us of what we can be going forward. This is just a soccer tournament that I'm talking about. Yet the underlying issues are so much more important. We are at a crossroads, I think, as a nation. We are at a crossroads in the Commonwealth. We need to give people hope. We need to lift people up. And if that's through music, let's do it. If it's through bars and restaurants and our fun agenda, let's do it. If it's through sport, let's do it. There's a lot at stake. Talking about, again, just a soccer match. But so much more than that, it's what we can accomplish in Massachusetts when we think big, we do big things, we put our mind to it, we bring people together from all different cultures, we respect each other, we enjoy each other, we put traffic cones on the heads of statues and dance together in the streets, whatever it may be. But I think, Mr. President, again, may seem like a seemingly insignificant time this summer, may seem like something that we shouldn't really be talking about in an economic development bill. But I can assure you, what many of us witnessed this summer is something I don't think that we planned for. It's not something that we expected, but it's something that if we want to realize the best that we can be as the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we will do everything we can to double down and do it again. We've shown that we can do big things, and as I said earlier, music heals, sports heals, art heals, and we should be doing all of the above. Thank you, Mr. President, and I hope this amendment is adopted.